Morning everybody. I like to move around and my talk's a little bit maxed. I'm a bit disappointed here with this X marks the spot, but anyway. Before I start, just like to say thank you very much, Paul, for giving me the opportunity to talk. We had a very animated conversation in the Landmark Claremont headquarters about a month ago, and he said, Anthony, that's outstanding. You'll be talking in 4 weeks. Just put a presentation together in your spare time. So thank you, Paul. You're a gentleman and a scholar. On another note, yes, a little crook, and my kids are big on jokes at the moment. I've got a kid in grade 2 and he just keeps coming home with all these funny jokes, and he said, Dad, why can't a bicycle stand up? And I said, I don't know, mate, why can't a bicycle stand up? And he said, it's too tired, Dad. Anyway, that's about the funniest thing he said to me, but it's how I feel this morning. So anyway, I apologise if I cough or splutter halfway through the presentation. But anyway, we get pretty animated on herbicides, particularly in the north. We've got a lot of country that's got a nice little bit of scrub through it. So obviously feather top roads is real hassle for us. So that's kind of where this is starting at, I suppose, in the future of farming with less herbicide choice. So I suppose we get asked to do more and more difficult jobs with sort of less and less options, and that's where this is sort of coming from. Anyway, one of the hardest weeds we currently have to control. I've walked into that paddock north of Claremont, and farmer said, mate, can you help me control this? True story. Anyway, we eventually got around it, but it took a fair bit of work. So, obviously it's been brought up, feather top roads, very, very difficult in our cropping system, probably the closest thing we have to some of the ryegrass issues down in the south. But it brought me to another thought, what would farming be like with their glyphosate? What would farming be like with that selective Group A's? And Group B's and the likes. And of course, in the north, we're using a heck of a lot of that stuff. So A's and B's, prices come down, using more and more of it. So anyway, where are we at with resistance? Obviously, just in glyphosate, and this is just taken straight off the net. And obviously, ryegrass, barnyard, liver seed, all the way, Trilex, daisy, wintergrass. That's just a glyphosate. So heaps and heaps of resistance starting from 96. So it's probably not a case of if but when, honestly, but still a really good tool for us, but it's got to be used in the right way. Big one, I think, there, South Thistle, starting to see a bit of that, and it's been spoken about already this morning. So anyway, as we said, who uses a Group A as a knockdown? How many times a year do you use something like metsulfuron? And how many times a year do we use glyphosate? And honestly, we're using Roundup with every spray. I think most people would have a Group A in their system somewhere, and definitely, we've probably got 1 or 2 Group Bs every year. So, starting to put a fair bit of pressure on these things we've been using for 20, 25 plus years. So just on Group Bs, obviously your metsulfurins and things like that, and research has shown that, 4 applications of the same population of annual ryegrass, and we spoke about that early. But wild radish, we don't think about that. 6 applications in a row, selecting the same population, and I'm not saying we've got that up here, but definitely something to be aware of, I think, and we're probably not thinking a lot about that at the moment. And again, Group B best management practices, I'm harping on Bs, but obviously, we're using quite a few of them, and avoid spraying more than, 2 Group B herbicides in any 4 years, and that'll be spoken about more later on, but I mean, we're probably using Group Bs 2 and 3 times a year if you look at all our rotations. So just a little something to be, put up there, and try and use alternate control measures to avoid seed set and all that sort of thing we spoke about already this morning. So, a lot of pressure on Group A's and a lot of pressure on Group B's in our system. And I've already spoken about the 5 sprays of Group A, and you can definitely get resistance and tolerance, and some similar numbers for Group B's. So just something to be aware of as a group. Common South Thistle, we spoke about it already. Group B, 10,000 populations of resistance, and I's are there, and your first Group M. So South Thistle, something that's becoming a real issue in our cropping systems. I think everyone gets that autumn spray job, and they're thinking, do we use 2,4-D, do we not? Or we just use a bit of alloy, hold on, we'll go straight Roundup. And you can already see some of those tolerances coming through. Again, wild radish, Group B, 5,000 populations, MCFI, obviously this is a lot of, Victoria, South Australia and Western Australia, but I mean, it's probably coming further north. And again, I'm not putting this up as a scare tactic, it's just a little bit of background. So plenty of tolerances, and again, little old prickly lettuce, a couple of thousand populations to Group B. So, it's definitely something to be aware of. So what is important in the future of our farming systems, and we spoke about it: chemical rotation, multiple modes of action, label rates, water volumes, and volunteer control. And Tony passed on all that, just touched on all that this morning. But if we take it a little closer to home, and this is what got me thinking. Now, obviously we've had some dry years, and wheat has become so important just for stubble and moisture retention in our system. And we always say, oh, we'll just put a bit of wheat in, it's cheap. But I think wheat as a rotation for number one, chemical, and two, stubble, is actually becoming possibly the most important crop in our system. Now, chickpea on chickpea for a few years, good prices. How hard has it been to wet this country up? And for us in the north, and it'll be the same down here, we just can't retain the moisture. We can get rain, but we can't wet anything up. And the classic example is about 2 k's south of my shop. We had paddocks that were so close to planting all year, but we couldn't get them wet. And we had a little paddock of about 350 acres of wheat stubble, missed all the rain, and got 2 70mm dumps, and we had sorghum into it. And that's what I was saying to Matt. We're using this, ally, we're treating wheat as a bit of a second-class citizen, but I think now, for our temperature and just the uneven nature of our rainfall and the intensity of our rainfall, it's becoming really, really important. So I thought, what about wheat? What could go wrong with wheat? Can't control feather top roads, or, we've got a south thistle issue, or we've got, Group A issues, which has been talked about this morning. And there's a lot of work being done on the, in central New South Wales with a whole different type of chemistry now. It's going to look like I'm sponsored by Bayer this morning, but we've got Mr. Ariel here that can guarantee that there's no back pocket deals going on here, but we are going to talk about one of his products. And this isn't saying we need to use this is not a recommendation, but this is just where people have got to go to in the south, to control ryegrass, just to grow a wheat crop. So obviously, what's it cost us to spray out in front of a wheat crop? Litre and a half of Roundup and 7 grams of alley, perfect brew. It's about $6. If you you go to some of these other options, it's significantly dearer, and we'll talk about it towards the end. But what are our options? So we want to control grass in wheat, and there are plenty of options, and we'll talk about some of them. But Secura. Now, Secura is a big one, and it's obviously based around resistant ryegrass, and I'm not talking about resistant ryegrass, this is just potential what could happen if we lose a Group A and a Group B. So it's great. Group K chemistry, use rate 118 grams, so it's a nice granule, all that stuff fits in. But here we go. Apply within 3 days of an incorporation. So that's not real likely to happen with us. Apply pre-sowing, and it's got to be IBS, incorporated by sowing. And this is the part where we start to differ. We've got narrow rows down south. What do we do with our stuff up north? Nice wide rows for moisture retention. And I think if you you start looking at that, you say these chemicals, they don't work in our system, but we've got to be starting to think about them in case we lose something in our network. So nice chemical rotation, but it's got to be incorporated within 3 days of application. So what does it control? Annual ryegrass, barley grass, all those sorts of things, wild oats, broom grass. Not a lot of what we have an issue with in the north, but I think we'll find it's pretty hot on feather top roads too, just by the by, but that's not a recommendation either, is it, Scott? No. So again, we've got to apply at full label rates onto evenly uncultivated soil that isn't too rigid or cloddy. High water rates when you've got stubble cover. Ensure emerged weeds are controlled, and security needs to be present when the weeds germinate for most effective uptake. So again, if you think of what we're doing now with just a bit of Roundup and alley or Roundup 2,4-D, if we start going to these options to control weeds, we've got to change our whole farming system. Narrow rows, more movement of soil, and that goes against everything we want to do in our system. So again, we know what it's like with Metallochlor and things like that now. Our summer plants, we've got a bit of uneven soil, but again, you can see here, Secura binds to the soil clods and requires adequate rainfall to come in contact with weeds. And again, you can see here a little bit of uneven soil. So again, your ryegrass is coming through and you've got no crop there. And if you just want to talk about stubble very quickly, with Secura, again, it's a nil trash, good control, completely untreated, a little bit of trash, 50% trash, and this more, much higher stubble load, you're starting to get those weeds come through. So everything we're trying to do in our cropping system, moisture retention, stubble retention, wide rows for even distribution of moisture, standability. If we take out an A, in particular, for something as simple as a wheat crop, and we're all going earlier and earlier with our wheat, particularly in the north. I won't speak for everyone down here, but that's because we were a chance of jagging that second rain to get our secondary roots down, so we've got something to harvest. And again, not playing devil's advocate here, but just this is how much we're going to have to change our system just to put some stubble in it. Again, just talking here, and these are Scott's slides, but security needs to be present when weeds germinate for most effective uptake. And you can see, dry soil awaiting activation. Dry topsoil, moist below, you're going to get those weeds germinate and come through the profile, and then you've got the perfect situation here of moist soil and incorporated into the soil and getting all these little weed seeds controlled. And again, that probably doesn't really play in our hands, effectively for a winter crop of wheat. Most of the stuff we use, when we talk about residuals post-sowing, pre-emergence, so get your turbine down, or your simazines or your metallochlors and things like that, and that's what we're used to. Nice wide rows, we'll spray out, we'll plant, and then within 2 or 3 days we'll come back with our post-sow pre-emergent, and with that we might use our paraquats to get another little knockdown or whatever, or our trizines. And this whole system of incorporated by sowing is something that we're not particularly familiar with, number one, but we're really not set up for it. And when I talk about secure, there's a huge market of Box of Gold by Syngenta down in the southern areas, and again it's based around ryegrass control, and that's a mix of metallochlor. And we can say, hey, woohoo, that works for us too, but again, if we don't have that in the band that we're trying to control, the whole system, I suppose, doesn't work. So again, we'll have a few plant back issues with some of these products, and again, it's something we're not used to. We'll spray a bit of Allion, that'll be gone by the time the wheat goes. And I'm probably harping on A's and B's, but they're obviously the most sensitive and most used in our cropping system. So wheat, yep, no recropping interval. Cotton, maize, mung beans, sorghum, soybeans, 5 months. So yeah, we could probably grow a bit of wheat and walk back into our summer rotations. Chickies, 9 months, 250 mils of rainfall, 150 mils worth of rainfall for the cotton. Probably something we can work with, but again, 250 mils of rainfall, we probably haven't seen that in a while. And then obviously lentils aren't big in our system, but they're 9 months control, but again, you need the rainfall. So the other one, barley, 9 months. Durum wheats, that's a real sensitive one, but not we have a big market. Vetch, 9 months, not a lot used up here. So again, there's a big residual. You need the rainfall to turn back around the crops, and this is the part I'm just trying to talk about now, is if we can protect our chemistry, we can do our rotations. If your agronomist comes in and says, hey, let's throw a K in there, or let's throw a group G in there, or something like that, just to break it up, and it's been spoken about this morning, a sledge or a sharpen or a something else to help with burn down, to help with seed set reduction, all that sort of thing. We can happily go along with our group A's and group B's and continue to do the job we're doing, but we've got to be relentless. We have to be out there early, and the jobs that we're talking about coming in with feather top, this high, and I know no one in this room probably does it, but there's cases like that still around, whacking 150 mils of verdict on it and going and shoving a sorghum crop in there. No double knock, nothing. That's where we're playing with the devil. So the question I often get asked is, so what are you doing about it? What are you trying to do? That's part of what we're here for today, is to talk about these things and make people aware. But there's obviously, we've got the Tasari research site down the Downs, and these fantastic companies are all involved with that Tasari research site, and that's I don't know if it quite looks like that this year, but that's the sort of thing we're doing. And there's a big field day that's just going on down there, where all the companies got down there, all the reps got down there, so there was, nice day. It was completely dry and no one had any work on, so everyone went to a field day. And what are they trialling? They are trialling heaps and heaps of chemistry, okay? And that's all around what works, what doesn't work. But you'll see this incorporated by sowing turning up more and more and more, and this is something we're going to have to start to think about a little bit, I think, if we continue down the path of where we're going. But again, we also see a lot of our post-sow pre-emergence, so it's trialling new products against old products, and it's replicated throughout. And I haven't put this, they're very busy slides, but just to show you, how many different applications are going on there. And then you've got incorporated by sowing, you've got some old chemistry in there, some Treflan and things like that, but also I've got new chemistry coming through. So you just, heaps and heaps of applications, but BASF got products that aren't even named yet, but it's all incorporated by sowing. So like we said earlier, we don't have a lot of modes of action coming through, but what we do have is chemistry, but it's all got different modes of application. So the trial site down there at Jasari, fantastic. Everyone's on board, and it's all about weed control and efficacy and things like that, and it's for farming, but it is your money in conjunction with some big corporates, and you know, they are trying to do a job, but again, none of this really quite fits our system. And it does put another layer of work in for us. So a lot of the new stuff coming, probably just worth noting, is a lot of it is incorporated by sowing. Our typical systems of, you know, post-sowing, pre-emergence or in crop, you know, there is some new stuff there, but it's, as they said this morning, it's probably just mixing chemistry we've already tried or already done. Yeah, so just, it's a real change, a step change in what we're trying to do in Central Queensland, and a lot of what we've always done is based around efficient farming practices, you know, trying to keep our costs down. In Central Queensland, I think just to finish off, you know, we've got a really low level of resistance realistically. You know, if you talk about southern New South Wales, even northern New South Wales, but definitely, you know, Victoria, South Australia, Western Australia, Central Queensland has the lowest level of resistance in all their cropping systems. We need to look after our chemistry, and by that, you know, correct water rates, weather rates, application rates, you know, timing, all that, be relentless, come back in, make sure there's nothing coming through. Because I feel if we look after our cropping systems, ultimately, you know, it'll look after our profitability. And I think that's what we'll hear about. So, you know, in closing, guys, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we really don't want to harp on it, but Group A's, Group B's, we've got to be careful with them. We've got to use them effectively. We need to look at our residuals, which has been spoken about, and Spacco will go into more detail on that. But again, we're right here in the ballpark. Right here in the ballpark. We've got all our modes of action realistically working, and an opportunity to keep the rotation, to keep them working for, you know, for the future. So again, I think if we look after our chemistry, I think it'll look after our profitability. Thank you.